Hi, my name is Cynthia Liu, and I'm here to talk to you about creating multiple income streams as a children's book writer. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I've been writing since the end of 2003, and I do everything from writing original work to ghostwriting to freelance editing to speaking to school visits to publishing other people's books and to general consulting. And so also one thing I do not do though is I am not a professional vlogger. So please excuse all the mishaps in this video. I will do my best to make any notes on the post that for any times that I might have misspoken or wasn't clear, but you're also welcome to comment or leave me questions so that I can help address them in case there's something here that isn't clear for you. Just really quick, I write everything from board books for the very young to teen novels. And example of if you had to read one book of mine, you're welcome to look for Paris Pan Takes a Dare. This was published in 2009, and this is the one that's near and dear to my heart, semi-autobiographical. So when you read this, I think you might get a better sense of who I am as a person from that. And then also my latest book that just came out this month is from Disney, and it's Mulan's Perfect Present. It's part of a flip the book. It's a really neat format. It's very special to me. It's about a family and honor, and I wrote it for my father who passed away last year. So if you want to get a sense of where my heart is, you can read this one, and this one is one of my favorites. So there you go. Okay. So moving right along, now that we've done that, I also want to, for any time you hear me do a talk or a speech or anything, I just want you to know that this is only my perspective. There are many, many paths and many, many ideas and opinions that are in this industry. So I always ask you to use your inner writer, take what resonates with you, know that I do not speak for everyone. And then, and also, one of the things that kind of, always kind of gets to me is when I'm somewhere and someone goes, well, editor so-and-so said this, and agent so-and-so said this, and it must be this way. And I just, please don't say Cynthia Liu said this, and it must, that's not how I feel. Like, so everything I'm saying here is just a guideline that I use. Take what you will from it, and know that your job as a writer is to kind of understand what the rhetoric is out there about a particular topic. Feel free to get great things from that, or also feel free to break from the guidelines and get really innovative. So hopefully anything I say here will inspire some innovation for you in terms of how to think about your career. And let's get started. So today I'm going to talk about 4 things. Your time and its worth, your objectives, the skill set that you have, and your plan. So hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll have some ideas about what that plan could be. So that's my goal, at least. Now, I only have less than 20 minutes to cover this, so I'm going to go super high level, but you're welcome again to ask me more detailed questions if you need to, because I could literally talk for hours about any topic in children's book writing. So it's always so hard for me to restrain myself. So let's begin. Your time and its worth. Now, this is just, you would think that this is common sense, but oftentimes we get so excited by anything positive that happens in this field, like when we get a great rejection or someone says, yeah, your story is good. We forget everything about the amount of time we spent on something. So I want you to actually sit there and think about your life. Maybe you have another job, maybe you don't. Maybe you do seasonal work. Maybe you are a stay-at-home parent. Maybe you're a caregiver for someone else. Maybe you really like to have lots of time devoted to binge watching reality TV, right? So what are the things that you want to make sure that you protect and you reserve for other parts of your life? Start to figure out, quantify. What does that look like on average per week? How many hours do you think you could spend on children's book writing or your children's book career? What is that? And also some people don't have that, again, like if you are a seasonal worker, that maybe you have summers or maybe there are breaks where you have more of an opportunity to devote to children's book writing. Think about, quantify that, and write that down. Write that down in hours to kind of get specific about it, right? Because if you can do that, I'm going to give you a formula. I love to make things into formulas to kind of give you an idea so that you can figure out what your possibilities are while still maintaining a life, which is really, really important. So we want to do that. Because if you do not do that, you will quickly become many new writers that I run into get really unhappy super fast because they aren't preserving time for their lifestyle. Okay. Next, now that you kind of have a feel for how much time you have, now I want you to figure out something really crazy. How much is your time worth, right? So this answer could be different for everybody, for everyone. So some of you might be, neurosurgeons. Some of you might be lawyers. Some of you might be administrative assistants. You might be a stay-at-home parent, right? So how you define that number is completely personal. So I want you to think about, is it $150 per hour? Is it $15 an hour? Would you just be happy to get 10 cents on the hour? It really just depends on what you think would satisfy you. And so, and if you spend that time to quantify that, okay? And then that will give you some idea of your goals, okay? Next, I want to talk about your objectives. What are your objectives? Oftentimes when I talk to other writers, we have these dreams, and these wonderful fantasies about being able to publish a New York Times bestselling hit every year. Maybe want to save enough money to be able to afford a new home, or maybe we just want to somehow get published, and that's our goal, and do that. And that money doesn't really matter, it's just this idea of accomplishment. Yeah, that's typically how we think. But I actually, for this particular course, I want you to think about, what are your real objectives? Because too often, all of these thoughts that we have that, the cabin in Maine, aren't actionable financial objectives. I need you to reframe your wishes and desires into actual dollar signs, right? To live in a cabin in Maine and live off of royalties. How much would that cost? Have you tried to quantify that? How long do you plan to do that for? How much money will you need to make to fulfill that dream? Let's just say you thought that, if a book, selling a book would help pay for a vacation a year. Well, what is your vacations? How much do they cost? Is it $1,000? Is it $5,000? Is it $10,000? And if money doesn't matter, then how much are you really willing to spend in time and actual money to get published? Will you ever want to make that back? Because this is another thing I run into quite a bit. People who spend an inordinate amount of money trying to get their book published, the other way around, either through self-publishing, hybrid publishing, or just investing in things such as bookmarks or things related to their book, or just the computer, the laptop, whatever it goes into. Do you have an expectation to make that money back? Because I think all too often people forget how much they've spent, and then when nothing comes in or very little comes in, they get even sadder. So let's try to quantify, what does it mean to achieve your objectives in dollar signs? Okay, so now that you've figured out how much time you have, what your time is worth, and what your financial objectives are, that can help you really start to narrow down or focus on the activities that will help you achieve those goals. And oh my goodness, there's so many possibilities. So for me, I am kind of one of those people that loves to explore everything. I like to just get my hands in everything. So when I started, I actually started critiquing work for free even before I was published. And then as I got published, then I had a stronger platform to work from, and then I began to create services for editing. And then as I started doing that, then I started doing more consulting related to how to craft stories. And then as I did that, then I started doing ghostwriting and all sorts of things. So You just don't know like where your writing career can lead you. And so now I'm just going to try to talk to you about the different ways that many authors make an income through their writing. First and foremost, there are writers out there who just write original work and they sell them to trade or they self-publish. Next, there's a lot of writers who freelance or ghostwrite. Third, there are also a lot of writers who do what I do, which is editing and critique services. And then there are also writers who do classes and coursework. And then there's also speaking engagements and school visits. So this is all part of the cornucopia of options. And then another thing to add, you could also become a publisher, which is interesting because that's what I'm doing now. So there's just a lot going on here, right? But how do you know what you should pursue? So this is where I want you to take an inventory of your actual skills. Before you pursue any of these things, understand what your skills are. Are you a jack of all trades? Do you fancy yourself as being a great speaker? Are you naturally social? Are you good at networking? Are you a really critical reader? Can you edit and be able to give feedback in a way that will inspire and motivate your writers while still being constructive? Are you a good teacher? What are you willing to learn? That's all the things that I need you to think about. Your speaking capabilities, your editing capabilities, your teaching capabilities, and then also, of course, your writing capabilities. Where do you want to stretch yourself outside of original work, or not, right? So figure out if you're willing to do that, right? If you only want to create original stuff authored by you, or if you want to write for other people. Okay, so that's another option. Now, when you have some idea of this, okay, the one thing that many people ask me about is, well, should I have like a book published first before I do all these things? And I would say, yeah, in general, it is extremely helpful to have some sort of platform. Now, a platform doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a book already published. I'm actually one example of someone who built a platform before they were even published. Okay, so I was blogging about writing for children and teens even before I had a book contract. And that's kind of unusual, but it was something that I did naturally. It was a skill that I already had and I didn't even know it, but that's just kind of how it came about. And you're welcome to go check out Writing for Children and Teens. And if you find an account on LiveJournal somewhere in the old ether of internet, you will be able to see my initial posts about writing for children. But whatever it might be, start to work on this platform. So, because when people start to hear of you and know you for being able to do something, what ends up happening is actually the dollars start to flow towards you as well. Now you need to have something that's verifiable, right? Like, for example, my Writing for Children and Teens blog became something that was verifiable. It was there. You could read the information. You could read the stuff that I was putting out there. And that was something concrete and visual for people to connect me with ultimately what the services that I ended up developing. And for many people, the most common route is that you have a book published, right? And it's usually from major trade or some other or small press, and then you come out that way. Or you can also go the route of self-publishing, and that's another way to build a platform. I have, met many writers who have self-published and have been able to make a name for themselves in this, and that's their platform. So think about what you can do to make yourself credible to other people. So now that we've talked about how much time you have, what it's worth, what is the financial cost of your objectives, and the importance of building a platform. Now you can start to think about, okay, what is the cost of building my platform? So imagine the amount of time that you spend writing into your original work. That counts because that's part of your platform. Imagine also the time you spend on developing a website and anything that you spend to create that website, whether it's a domain name or whatever. Keep track of all that. Your social media presence, the time, any cost of education or certificates that you feel you might need to pursue. And then, if you've given out free samples of your work or services, all this kind of counts in making sure that you understand how much time and effort and actual dollars you spent building your platform. Now you're ready to start building a plan, right? What do I mean by plan? Well, this is probably the most concrete visual way I can get you to look at this, because you're talking about a career or a business. So your plan, you could say business plan, but for most authors, it's easier just to think of it as your Schedule C. Okay, so have you ever done your tax returns, or if you have a small business, you might know about Schedule C already. Now, we can go on and on about whether or not you incorporated all this stuff, but that's, again, no time for that in this video. So let's just go with the basics of the Schedule C. What is your gross income that you hope to make, your royalties from your book, your income from speaking engagements, school visits, critiques, classes, and workshops? This is just an example. What are your expenses? Advertising, your business card, if you have a website, supplies, paper, ink, toner, whatever that might be. Your education, if you got let's say, a certificate or you're pursuing a degree. The cost of your professional organizations, your membership to SCBWI, all these things are tax deductible, right? So keep track of all of that. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, you'll be able to figure out what your net profit or loss might be in pursuing those objectives that you set for yourself. And this is another thing that the IRS looks at, because you can, even before you're published, start to deduct all of these expenses and start to calculate all of that. But the IRS generally, and I'm not an accountant, so please consult an accountant. If you're an accountant, feel free to correct me. But the rule of thumb is you've basically got 3 years to make it work, right? So you can start to deduct all these expenses for getting started. But hopefully, you're going to generate some income. Otherwise, the IRS may treat this as a hobby. So just keep that in mind. Start projecting down year 1, year 2, year 3. This way you understand what you're going for, and if you need to pull the ripcord and bail out and take up skydiving instead, then you know exactly where what you're comfortable with. Other people are like, even if I lose money every year for 15 years, my goal is to publish a novel, it doesn't matter how much it costs because I'm independently wealthy. Okay, that's different. But just know that what you think you're going to earn in 3 years, I think that will really help. What's your objectives to how many books do you think you can plan to sell in a year? Now, there's numbers associated with all this. And again, don't have time to go over all those numbers, but you can find information readily available on the internet. You can go to the SCBWI resource guide to figure out what are typical advances for first-time novels, to give you some idea of what that might be. You can also peruse websites of editors to see how much editors charge. Think about, what would be realistic for you in terms of your time. How much do you think you might be able to book in order to generate that revenue? If you were to teach a class, all of this information is available if you search it out, and then you can start to estimate, and based on your goals. I have a few more cautionary tips for you when you think about all the information I just shared with you today. Like I said earlier, one person's path is not everyone's path. It's completely okay to just have a single income stream, which is writing your own stuff and hoping that you sell those books. There are plenty of people who do that and do that really well. It's too easy to look at other people or what's going on in social media and having that distract you from what your objectives are and what your plan is. So just know that there's a lot of noise out there, and that can sometimes be demotivating. So just remember, if you've written down exactly what it is that you need for yourself, your path does not have to be like everyone else's. And then finally, anything that you do here in terms of your time and your money, as I said before, is a startup cost. But also I want you to understand that this is very much like a startup, and there's a real good possibility that you could lose it all. And are you okay with that? Again, I think that the best tip of all, out of all these things I'm sharing with you today, is to keep your eyes wide open. When your expectations are set correctly, you're less likely to be disappointed by the outcome. So keep your eyes wide open, listen to you, what your desires are, and what you hope for, and be realistic about what could happen. If you've gotten my tips, I have one last tip for you, which is to join my email list at writingforchildrenandteens.com. There's a lot of really cool stuff that's happening this year. I'm going to be rolling out online courses that are one-on-one coaching. And if you want to be my guinea pig for a new course that I'm rolling out, to be the first, no cost, by all means sign up for that list. Those spots go really fast. And then also, if you want to know about my paid courses, that will be coming out. And then there'll be free Teak challenges as well coming up that you'll want to be a part of to help work on your craft. So again, my name is Cynthia Liu. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you at writingforchildrenandteens.com, and you're welcome to follow or friend me on Facebook and Twitter, and I hope to see you there. Bye, guys.